I only really dabbled with wearing watches throughout parts of high school and college, but it wasn't until 2022 that I realized that I was tired of looking at my phone to check the time and wanted to get back into wearing watches. In this video, we're going to be covering the small collection I have here. I have a $20 Amazon watch box, which is fairly indicative of my collection. It's really not expensive, it's mostly utilitarian, with a couple of pieces with a teeny bit more flair. But let's not dawdle too much, let's dig right into it. The first watch that I bought getting into collecting watches was one of the greatest watches of all time. Of course, we've got the classic Casio F91W here. This is the greatest watch of all time as far as I'm concerned. Not the best watch of all time because it kind of sucks, but it's the greatest watch of all time. For the money you pay for it, which for me was $12 in 2022, you get a ton of watch for the money. However, you can certainly do better than this. We'll see if we can set it in there. Our little teeny F91. Everyone should have one. However, it's not amazing. You can certainly do better. Now, on the jarring opposite end of cost, I wanted to get a little bit classier watch, and I'm a big dumb nerd for James Bond. However, I'm also still someone who's in their mid-20s and doesn't have a ton of money. So in mid-2022, I did some scouring on eBay and picked up this Omega Seamaster dress watch. This is a quartz watch, incredibly thin, very cool, very classic. Admittedly, it kind of doesn't run the best because you have to change the battery fairly often, but it's got a wonderful gold dial with like a grid pattern on there. No lume on the hands. I mean, there's a teeny bit, but it doesn't do anything. This is purely a dress watch, but it's something I've worn for events, like going to SHOT Show earlier this year. I've got some cheap leather strap on here, but you know what? It's a watch I like. I've been on the fence about selling it because I don't wear it a ton, but it is a watch that I enjoy, and I've got a teeny bit of sentimental connection to. This cost me about $250 on eBay back during 2022, and I think I want to maybe get it serviced, but I looked at servicing fees for this, and it would cost me twice as much as what I paid for the watch, so that probably ain't happening. Now, these were the two primary watches that I wore for 2022 and getting into 2023. It wasn't until about May of this year that I decided that I was tired of the F91 having a crappy backlight, and I wanted to upgrade. Now, admittedly, I bought two of the AE1200 Casio World Timers. This one here is wearing the factory jingly Casio bracelet, but I also got one on the resin strap. Now, the resin strap one's gone. I gave it to a friend after I finished my review for the website. Link down below. However, I kept the metal bracelet one. I modded it by pulling off the text from the case, and I really dig this watch. This is a great traveler's watch, very inexpensive. For 20 to 30 bucks, you've got a watch with so much functionality, and I really dig that. Now, I wanted to kind of get into dive watches, and I did that with the Invicta Pro Diver, a watch that a lot of people use as their entry as a budget watch. Now, I got a quartz one. I reviewed it for the website, but I realized I wanted something a little bit more special. Now, I did not set out to buy a watch owned by Invicta Group, but I ended up with this Glycine Combat sub here. This has been one of my favorite watches of the year, probably my favorite watch that I currently own, and the one that gets the most wrist time aside from a few watches we'll be seeing down the line here. This one here is the field watch style with the extra numbers on the dial for 24 hours. The bezel is 60 clicks and is very, very positive, something I really enjoy. It runs very well. Mine gains about 5 seconds a day, so I'm ecstatic with that. And I replaced the factory NATO that's rather thin with a little bit thicker one here. I really dig this watch. I wish the lume was better, but otherwise, it's really, really cool. I bought this one as a showroom display model, so it was used but not worn really. And I want to say I paid about $210 on eBay for it. I get a lot of the used watches through eBay and a lot of the regular watches through Amazon. So the next one's really an oddball. Here in Salt Lake City, there's a little Casio shop in South Salt Lake, and I went there one day just to browse, and I found this. So this is a fairly chewed up Bova dress watch from the 1980s. It's a quartz dress watch, very weird case shape, integrated bracelet, butterfly clasp here. And the story behind this specific watch is that the owner came in to have some work done, the watchmaker worked on it, and then the owner never showed up. So the watchmaker had this in his display case for sale because it had been sitting for however many months and no one wanted it. It has some scratches in the mineral crystal there. I paid 20 bucks for this. This is such a weird, unique watch, and Bova having a neat history, the fact that this was Bova before they were bought out by Citizen Group is pretty nifty too. So I have this, not a watch I wear a ton. It's kind of small for me, but it does fit. However, I just thought it was so nifty that I had to hold on to it. Now, I don't wear that one much. That's probably my least worn watch in the collection. However, we have my second most worn watch in the collection, my Casio GShock DW5600. This is a watch that gets worn to the gym, gets worn shooting, gets worn doing cardio, gets worn basically if I'm going to be doing something physical and I want to have a thing that I don't have to worry about, this is it. Now, I don't worry about my combat sub. However, this is one that if I wanted to use a stopwatch or a countdown timer, it's really helpful to have a lot of those functions when doing cardio or doing lifting, just general gym stuff. So I really dig this watch. This is probably my favorite Casio I've ever owned. And it's funny because I was given a GShock in high school after doing well in the SATs, but it was one of those giant round ones that looks like you've got a hockey puck on your wrist. This one here is one that fits my wrist rather well, and I think that's why I like it. I couldn't imagine wearing a larger G-Shock than this. The next one in chronological order is another Casio, kind of a trend for me, A168. It's a cool little budget dress watch. I wanted to get it because, well, I just thought it was cool. For 18 or 19 or 20 bucks, it's hard to beat this thing. I love the little backlight. I love how simple it is. It really feels like you took the F91 and you made it into Sweeties. So I dig that. If it'll sit in there. Now, coming up are two that I actually bought at the same time, and they're going to get shown at the same time here. We have the Casio WS 1600 and the AE 1300. So I've got an upcoming series for our website pretty soon here where I'm trying to compare most of the World Timer-esque or the Casio Royale case-shaped watches from Casio. The WS 1600 is the one that gets more wear for me because I find that the additional functions are more useful. But the AE 1300's got a very unique display, and I really like the striations on the display there. So I dig that. These are both really useful, great battery life, very durable. They're each 20 bucks a piece. They're both wearing nylon NATOs with 3D adapters, 3D printed adapters to work on there. Really dig these watches. So they're both going to go in there because they got purchased at the same time. Now, I do dig vintage watches, even though they require a little bit more work. And one that I wanted to pick up after enjoying my combat sub was this Glycine Vacuum here. Now, it's a very unique watch. I couldn't find much out there about these, but essentially it was Glycine trying to make a more water-resistant dress watch in the 1950s and 60s. They call it the vacuum because when you pull the crown out and then you push it back in, it helps to pull some of that air out of the movement. So hypothetically, it's creating a better seal. Now, obviously, 60 years later, I'm not going to try to wear this thing, swimming or out in heavy rain, but as a dress watch, it's fun. I got it for a screaming deal on eBay from a seller that just no one bid on because the photos were kind of crappy. And it's a shame because I don't feel bad for getting this for the price I paid, but similar ones in worse shape were going for $400 to $500 more than I paid for this one. So I dig it. Really love the dial on there. And even on this old metal elastic bracelet, it's actually rather comfortable. I'll probably get some nice leather on here at some point, but I haven't had this pull hairs or get aggravating, so I haven't gotten rid of it yet. In goes there. Now, the next one was a white elephant gift. I participated in a white elephant gift exchange at the start of the month, and I actually bought this as the gift for somebody else, and of course, I ended up back with it. I don't know the exact model name. Actually, we look on the back here. The WS1200H. It's the Casio fishing watch. It uses a moon phase to tell you where fish might be. The joke is we live in a landlocked state where tides don't really make a difference for fishing, so I thought this would be a good gag gift, but of course I ended up back with it. I don't think I've ever worn this out of the house, but as a goofy little thing, I thought I'd keep it. Now, the last watch I've got here is one that I was given by my wonderful girlfriend as a Christmas gift, and I've really come to like it. I've been wearing it every day to the gym, and that's the Casio DW291. This one's kind of meant to be the newer version of the DW290, the old Mission Impossible watch, but 200-meter water resistance, mineral crystal, great battery life, all the same functions as the Casio Royale, but with a more overall useful display. My only gripe with this watch is that the pushers are a little too easy to hit, and I find that when I'm wearing it, it bumps into the back of the wrist. However, it's been super comfortable. The resin strap on here is more comfortable than any other Casio I've ever had, and it's one that I kind of just want to keep wearing. I'm someone that, with writing for a website, I like to cycle through things, whether it's guns, knives, gear, or watches, at a rate so I can get more time on them. But I keep wanting to go back to that DW291. It's just so damn comfortable. So these are my 12 watches. The total collection's worth, I don't know, $700, give or take $800 maybe. However, you don't have to spend money to get nice watches, and truth be told, a lot of the watches I have that I really enjoy are the ones that cost $30, the ones that cost $12, right? So, thank you for watching, and while this is kind of a new thing for me, it'll be interesting to see where things go going into the next year, because there are some slightly higher dollar watches I'd like to get into, but at the same time, I'm very content with what I have. If anything, I'd probably maybe get rid of this Bova here since it doesn't get worn, and maybe see if I can find someone who would service this Seamaster dress for a price that isn't $600. But hey, you know, it is what it is. Everything costs money. Thank you for watching, and check out for more content down below.